United Workers' Party and never looked back. While other islands shield their people, this greedy SLP government lets you carry the weight. This isn't leadership, it's neglect. It's time for relief. Time for real leadership. Time to truly put the people first. United Workers' Party, standing with you, fighting for you. Pierre Parbon.
Did you know that under the UWP, a total of 871 citizenships were sold between 2016 and 2021? So far, the SLP has sold 14,000 citizenships in 3 years.
Did you know that the price of fuel was capped at $13.95 per gallon under the UWP? But that cap was removed when Philip J. Pierre became Prime Minister. The price per gallon is now $16.50, the highest in the OACS for the last 3 years.
Did you know that homicides have increased by 25% since Philip J. Pierre became Prime Minister? Over 280 homicides have been recorded in the last 3 years. Did you know that the price of kerosene increased from $7 a gallon under the UWP to $11.69 per gallon under the SLP? A whopping $4.69 more per gallon.
Did you know that Prime Minister Philip J. Pierre cancelled the National Health Insurance Program, which was started by the UWP, and would have given every St. Lucian $75,000 worth of healthcare coverage every year?
Hard-hitting, punchy, straight to the point, like it is. Starting on Monday, September 23rd, 2024. And every Monday from 8 p.m. Join in our simulcast on Hot 7 TV, Cable 117, Plug and Play, Channel 7, and Kiss FM 105.5 and 105.9, where we discuss politics and current affairs, the issues that matter and concern you, with your host, Spider Montoot. See you every Monday from 8 p.m. when we tell it like it is.
Dear Prime Minister Pierre, did you know that over 240 St. Lucians have been murdered under your watch?
I'm not a policeman. My father was, not me.
Are you aware that the last 3 years have all seen record-breaking homicides?
I'm not a policeman. My father was, not me.
Murders have increased by 25% under your watch. What is your plan?
I'm not a policeman. My father was, not me.
Why are you not giving the DPP the resources he requires?
I'm not a policeman. My father was, not me.
Why are you allowing Ernest Ile and Richard Frederick to get away with all this corruption?
I'm not a policeman. My father was, not me.
Why do you keep rejecting advice on crime solutions from the UWP?
I'm not a policeman. My father was, not me.
Why have you abandoned the Border Control Initiative?
I'm not a policeman. My father was, not me.
Why did you initially abandon the K9 unit?
I repeat again, I'm not a policeman. My father was, not me.
So come Friday, right around the Printry from by Parliament, coming across onto Jeremy Street, that area will be deemed a no vending zone. I call on all vendors who currently occupy that area to dismantle whatever pieces of steel, whatever old tarpaulins, whatever old tables they have in the area. Because if they are left there, we will have no choice but than to deal with them appropriately.
Flashback.
As the MP for Castries Central, in terms of your vision for the constituency, where do the vendors fit in?
I'll tell you one thing. Nobody will interfere with any vendor anywhere again. Nobody. Walk through Manhattan. Vendors all on the sidewalks.
Yes.
That is what gives a city its character. Nobody under my watch is touching no vendor.
Why is fuel in St. Lucia $16.50 a gallon? Antigua pays $14.50, Dominica $13.90, St. Kitts just $12.76. Yet for 4 years, St. Lucians have paid the highest fuel prices in the OACS. And it's not just at the pump. Electricity is up, bus fares are up, the cost of goods through the roof. Why? because Prime Minister Philip J. Pierre removed the $13.95 fuel cap put in place by the former United Workers' Party and never looked back. While other islands shield their people, this greedy SLP government lets you carry the weight. This isn't leadership, it's neglect. It's time for relief. Time for real leadership. Time to truly put the people first. United Workers' Party, standing with you, fighting for you. Pierre Parbon.
Did you know that under the UWP, a total of 871 citizenships were sold between 2016 and 2021? So far, the SLP has sold 14,000 citizenships in 3 years.
Did you know that the price of fuel was capped at $13.95 per gallon under the UWP? But that cap was removed when Philip J. Pierre became Prime Minister. The price per gallon is now $16.50, the highest in the OACS for the last 3 years.
Did you know that homicides have increased by 25% since Philip J. Pierre became Prime Minister? Over 280 homicides have been recorded in the last 3 years. Did you know that the price of kerosene increased from $7 a gallon under the UWP to $11.69 per gallon under the SLP? A whopping $4.69 more per gallon.
Did you know that Prime Minister Philip J. Pierre cancelled the National Health Insurance Program, which was started by the UWP, and would have given every St. Lucian $75,000 worth of healthcare coverage every year?
Hard-hitting, punchy, straight to the point, like it is. Starting on Monday, September 23rd, 2024. And every Monday from 8 p.m. Join in our simulcast on Hot 7 TV, Cable 117, Plug and Play, Channel 7, and Kiss FM 105.5 and 105.9, where we discuss politics and current affairs, the issues that matter and concern you, with your host, Spider Montoot. See you every Monday from 8 p.m. when we tell it like it is.
Dear Prime Minister Pierre, did you know that over 240 St. Lucians have been murdered under your watch?
I'm not a policeman. My father was, not me.
Are you aware that the last 3 years have all seen record-breaking homicides?
I'm not a policeman. My father was, not me.
Murders have increased by 25% under your watch. What is your plan?
I'm not a policeman. My father was, not me.
Why are you not giving the DPP the resources he requires?
I'm not a policeman. My father was, not me.
Why are you allowing Ernest Ile and Richard Frederick to get away with all this corruption?
I'm not a policeman. My father was, not me.
Why do you keep rejecting advice on crime solutions from the UWP?
I'm not a policeman. My father was, not me.
Why have you abandoned the Border Control Initiative?
I'm not a policeman. My father was, not me.
Why did you initially abandon the K9 unit?
I repeat again, I'm not a policeman. My father was, not me.
So come Friday, right around the Printry from by Parliament, coming across onto Jeremy Street, that area will be deemed a no vending zone. I call on all vendors who currently occupy that area to dismantle whatever pieces of steel, whatever old tarpaulins, whatever old tables they have in the area. Because if they are left there, we will have no choice but than to deal with them appropriately.
Flashback.
As the MP for Castries Central, in terms of your vision for the constituency, where do the vendors fit in?
I'll tell you one thing. Nobody will interfere with any vendor anywhere there. Nobody. Walk through Manhattan. Vendors all on the sidewalks. The under my watch is touching no vendor.
Why is fuel in St. Lucia $16.50 a gallon? Antigua pays $14.50, Dominica $13.90, St. Kitts just $12.76. Yet for 4 years, St. Lucians have paid the highest fuel prices in the OACS. And it's not just at the pump. Electricity is up, bus fares are up, the cost of goods, through the roof. Why? Because Prime Minister Philip J. Pierre removed the $13.95 fuel cap put in place by the former United Workers' Party and never looked back. While other islands shield their people, this greedy SLP government lets you carry the weight. This isn't leadership, it's neglect. It's time for relief. Time for real leadership. Time to truly put the people first. United Workers' Party, standing with you, fighting for you. Pierre Parbon.
Did you know that under the UWP, a total of 871 citizenships were sold between 2016 and 2021? So far, the SLP has sold 14,000 citizenships in 3 years.
Did you know that the price of fuel was capped at $13.95 per gallon under the UWP? But that cap was removed when Philip J. Pierre became Prime Minister. The price per gallon is now $16.50, the highest in the OECS for the last 3 years.
Did you know that homicides have increased by 25% since Philip J. Pierre became Prime Minister? Over 280 homicides have been recorded in the last 3 years. Did you know that the price of kerosene increased from $7 a gallon under the UWP to $11.69 per gallon under the SLP? A whopping $4.69 more per gallon.
Did you know that Prime Minister Philip J. Pierre cancelled the National Health Insurance Program, which was started by the UWP, and would have given every St. Lucian $75,000 worth of healthcare coverage every year?
Hard-hitting, punchy, straight to the point, like it is. Starting on Monday, September 23rd, 2024. And every Monday from 8 p.m. Join in our simulcast on Hot 7 TV, Cable 117, Plug and Play, Channel 7, and Kiss FM 105.5 and 105.9, where we discuss politics and current affairs, the issues that matter and concern you, with your host, Spider Montoot. See you every Monday from 8 p.m. when we tell it like it is.
Dear Prime Minister Pierre, did you know that over 240 St. Lucians have been murdered under your watch?
I'm not a policeman. My father was, not me.
Are you aware that the last 3 years have all seen record-breaking homicides?
I'm not a policeman. My father was, not me.
Murders have increased by 25% under your watch. What is your plan?
I'm not a policeman. My father was, not me.
Why are you not giving the DPP the resources he requires?
I'm not a policeman. My father was, not me.
Why are you allowing Ernest Ile and Richard Frederick to get away with all this corruption?
I'm not a policeman. My father was, not me.
Why do you keep rejecting advice on crime solutions from the UWP?
I'm not a policeman. My father was, not me.
Why have you abandoned the Border Control Initiative?
I'm not a policeman. My father was, not me.
Why did you initially abandon the K9 unit?
I repeat again, I'm not a policeman. My father was, not me.
So come Friday, right around the Printry from by Parliament, coming across onto Jeremy Street, that area will be deemed a no vending zone. I call on all vendors who currently occupy that area to dismantle whatever pieces of steel, whatever old tarpaulins, whatever old tables they have in the area. Because if they are left there, we would have no choice but than to deal with them appropriately.
Flashback.
As the MP for Castries Central, in terms of your vision for the constituency, where do the vendors fit in?
I'll tell you one thing. Nobody will interfere with any vendor anywhere there. Nobody. Walk through Manhattan. Vendors all on the sidewalks. That is what gives a city its character. Nobody under my watch is touching no vendor.
Why is fuel in St. Lucia $16.50 a gallon? Antigua pays $14.50, Dominica $13.90, St. Kitts just $12.76. Yet for 4 years, St. Lucians have paid the highest fuel prices in the OECS. And it's not just at the pump. Electricity is up, bus fares are up, the cost of goods through the roof. Why? Because Prime Minister Philip J. Pierre removed the $13.95 fuel cap put in place by the former United Workers' Party and never looked back. While other islands shield their people, this greedy SLP government lets you carry the weight. This isn't leadership, it's neglect. It's time for relief. Time for real leadership. Time to truly put the people first. United Workers' Party, standing with you, fighting for you. Pierre Parbon.
Did you know that under the UWP, a total of 871 citizenships were sold between 2016 and 2021? So far, the SLP has sold 14,000 citizenships in 3 years.
Did you know that the price of fuel was capped at $13.95 per gallon under the UWP? But that cap was removed when Philip J. Pierre became Prime Minister. The price per gallon is now $16.50, the highest in the OECS for the last 3 years.
Did you know that homicides have increased by 25% since Philip J. Pierre became Prime Minister? Over 280 homicides have been recorded in the last 3 years. Did you know that the price of kerosene increased from $7 a gallon under the UWP to $11.69 per gallon under the SLP? A whopping $4.69 more per gallon.
Did you know that Prime Minister Philip J. Pierre cancelled the National Health Insurance Program, which was started by the UWP, and would have given every St. Lucian $75,000 worth of healthcare coverage every year?
Hard-hitting, punchy, straight to the point, like it is. Starting on Monday, September 23rd, 2024. And every Monday from 8 p.m. Join in our simulcast on Hot 7 TV, Cable 117, Plug and Play, Channel 7, and Kiss FM 105.5 and 105.9, where we discuss politics and current affairs, the issues that matter and concern you, with your host, Spider Montoot. See you every Monday from 8 p.m. when we tell it like it is.
Dear Prime Minister Pierre, did you know that over 240 St. Lucians have been murdered under your watch?
I'm not a policeman. My father was, not me.
Are you aware that the last 3 years have all seen record-breaking homicides?
I'm not a policeman. My father was, not me.
Murders have increased by 25% under your watch. What is your plan?
I'm not a policeman. My father was, not me.
Why are you not giving the DPP the resources he requires?
I'm not a policeman. My father was, not me.
Why are you allowing Ernest Ile and Richard Frederick to get away with all this corruption?
I'm not a policeman. My father was, not me.
Why do you keep rejecting advice on crime solutions from the UWP?
I'm not a policeman. My father was, not me.
Why have you abandoned the Border Control Initiative?
I'm not a policeman. My father was, not me.
Why did you initially abandon the K9 unit?
I repeat again, I'm not a policeman. My father was, not me.
So come Friday, right around the Printry from by Parliament, coming across onto Jeremy Street, that area will be deemed a no vending zone. I call on all vendors who currently occupy that area to dismantle whatever pieces of steel, whatever old tarpaulins, whatever old tables they have in the area. Because if they are left there, we would have no choice but than to deal with them appropriately.
Flashback.
As the MP for Castries Central, in terms of your vision for the constituency, where do the vendors fit in?
I'll tell you one thing. Nobody will interfere with any vendor anywhere again. Nobody. Walk through Manhattan. Vendors all on the sidewalks. That is what gives a city its character. Nobody under my watch is touching no vendor.
Why is fuel in St. Lucia $16.50 a gallon? Antigua pays $14.50, Dominica $13.90, St. Kitts just $12.76. Yet for 4 years, St. Lucians have paid the highest fuel prices in the OACS. And it's not just at the pump. Electricity is up, bus fares are up, the cost of goods through the roof. Why? Because Prime Minister Philip J. Pierre removed the $13.95 fuel cap put in place by the former United Workers' Party and never looked back. While other islands shield their people, this greedy SLP government lets you carry the weight. This isn't leadership, it's neglect. It's time for relief. Time for real leadership. Time to truly put the people first. United Workers' Party, standing with you, fighting for you. Pierre Parbon.
Did you know that under the UWP, a total of 871 citizenships were sold between 2016 and 2021? So far, the SLP has sold 14,000 citizenships in 3 years.
Did you know that the price of fuel was capped at $13.95 per gallon under the UWP? But that cap was removed when Philip J. Pierre became Prime Minister. The price per gallon is now $16.50, the highest in the OACS for the last 3 years.
Did you know that homicides have increased by 25% since Philip J. Pierre became Prime Minister? Over 280 homicides have been recorded in the last 3 years. Did you know that the price of kerosene increased from $7 a gallon under the UWP to $11.69 per gallon under the SLP? A whopping $4.69 more per gallon.
Did you know that Prime Minister Philip J. Pierre cancelled the National Health Insurance Program, which was started by the UWP, and would have given every St. Lucian $75,000 worth of healthcare coverage every year?
Hard-hitting, punchy, straight to the point, like it is. Starting on Monday, September 23rd, 2024. And every Monday from 8 p.m. Join in our simulcast on Hot 7 TV, Cable 117, Plug and Play, Channel 7, and Kiss FM 105.5 and 105.9, where we discuss politics and current affairs, the issues that matter and concern you, with your host, Spider Montoot. See you every Monday from 8 p.m. when we tell it like it is.
Dear Prime Minister Pierre, did you know that over 240 St. Lucians have been murdered under your watch?
I'm not a policeman. My father was, not me.
Are you aware that the last 3 years have all seen record-breaking homicides?
I'm not a policeman. My father was, not me.
Murders have increased by 25% under your watch. What is your plan?
I'm not a policeman. My father was, not me.
Why are you not giving the DPP the resources he requires?
I'm not a policeman. My father was, not me.
Why are you allowing Ernest Ile and Richard Frederick to get away with all this corruption?
I'm not a policeman. My father was, not me.
Why do you keep rejecting advice on crime solutions from the UWP?
I'm not a policeman. My father was, not me.
Why have you abandoned the Border Control Initiative?
I'm not a policeman. My father was, not me.
Why did you initially abandon the K9 unit?
I repeat again, I'm not a policeman. My father was, not me.
So come Friday, right around the Printry from by Parliament, coming across onto Jeremy Street, that area will be deemed a no vending zone. I call on all vendors who currently occupy that area to dismantle whatever pieces of steel, whatever old tarpaulins, whatever old tables they have in the area. Because if they are left there, we will have no choice but than to deal with them appropriately.
Flashback.
As the MP for Castries Central, in terms of your vision for the constituency, where do the vendors fit in?
I'll tell you one thing. Nobody will interfere with any vendor anywhere again. Nobody. Walk through Manhattan. Vendors all on the sidewalks.
Yes.
That is what gives a city its character. Nobody under my watch is touching no vendor.
Why is fuel in St. Lucia $16.50 a gallon? Antigua pays $14.50. Dominica, $13.90. St. Kitts, just $12.76. Yet for 4 years, St. Lucians have paid the highest fuel prices in the OACS. And it's not just at the pump. Electricity is up, bus fares are up, the cost of goods through the roof. Why? Because Prime Minister Philip J. Pierre removed the $13.95 fuel cap put in place by the former United Workers' Party and never looked back. While other islands shield their people, this greedy SLP government lets you carry the weight. This isn't leadership, it's neglect. It's time for relief. Time for real leadership. Time to truly put the people first. United Workers' Party, standing with you, fighting for you. Pierre Parbon.
Good morning and welcome to our viewers and listeners. Welcome to the United Workers' Party press briefing for this week. And today I have with me our political leader and interim Prime Minister, the Honorable Alan Michael Chastanet, and of course we have with him the endorsed candidate for the constituency of Micoud North, Mr. Elisha Norbert. First up, I will be calling on the Honorable Alan Michael Chastanet, who will be speaking on some of the UWP's policies going forward, as well as some other matters that he wishes to touch on. Ladies and gentlemen, I call on our first presenter, the Honorable Alan Chastanet.
Good morning, my fellow St. Lucians. I think that I echo the sentiment of a lot of St. Lucians that are extremely relieved at the recent announcement by the Prime Minister that general elections are going to be held on December 1st. This presents an opportunity for the public to have a referendum on the performance of this government for the last 4.5 years. And we can look back at how they've handled the economy, in particular healthcare, cost of living, and crime. And we can certainly see how this government has lived up to the promises they've made, especially the promise of transparency and accountability, and whether in fact they've been willing to take responsibility for a lot of things that they have done. I know, and you know, that the last 4 years have been extremely difficult for many of the families in St. Lucia. The high cost of living, allowing gas prices to remain artificially high, that United Workers' Party capped the price of gas, meaning we prevented the gas prices from rising to the same level as the international price of a barrel of oil. On the other hand, the Labour Party have used the same cap, but in this instance, they've prevented the price of gas at the pump from dropping to the level where price of oil is at. Both of us capping, but one to the benefit of the people of this country and one to the benefit of the coffers of government. I think we'll all remember this government for overseeing the policy to allow the price of bread to double, especially when bread is in the motto of the Labour Party. In allowing bus fares to increase permanently. Introducing a 2.5% levy that really brought the VAT rate past 15%. Because remember, it was the Labour Party that introduced a VAT rate of 15%. It was my administration that lowered that VAT rate to 12.5%. And in order not to call it a VAT, and to try to deceive the people of this country, they called it a health and security levy. But we all now know that none of that money went to support health or security. That money went straight into the coffers of government, again, to support a loan that was taken from CDB. To make matters worse, healthcare in this country has reached an all-time low. That statement is substantiated by the letters that were written by the Medical and Dental Association saying exactly the same, that healthcare in this country had never been worse. And in fact, warning the government that if there was not an immediate address to the situation, that local doctors and nurses would resign. True to their word, they did. I bring this up because not only has the poor health system worsened people's health, but it has had a catastrophic effect on household finances. The number of stories I've had to listen to, and my colleagues and you have had to listen to, of persons who had a loved one that was in distress. And at that time, whether you have to mortgage your home for a second time, whether you have to use your life savings, whether you have to borrow money from other persons, those were all secondary when saving your loved one's life was at stake. Sadly, some persons were not successful and their loved one died and they're left with the debt. Sometimes you were able to save your loved one, but now you're left with a significant amount of debt. So the cost of living crisis has been exacerbated by a healthcare system that has not been able to meet the needs of the general public. Made even worse by the fact that when you go to a healthcare center or you go to the hospital, they don't have medication, and you're now expected to go and buy sutures and basic material for the doctors and nurses to attend you, putting even more financial stress on you. We've seen a government fail miserably when it comes to security. And I think a lot of persons would agree, it started from the onset that when you allowed a person with a very suspect reputation to be in your cabinet, and for that person to be using information that should only be in the files of the police to go after persons. We have the situation with the canine dogs. Dogs were in place. The government said it was not needed, terminated the contracts, only to find out afterwards that they did need it, that they brought a dog in, given as a gift by the French, Tyson. Tyson has died, been killed. 5 months later, still no report. We see the lies where the government has said that they paid the insurance for the police to find out that that was not the case. Government wants to take credit for bringing in new cars in and equipment. That's what every government is expected to do. Every single government for the last 20 years have been buying new cars. Cars aren't going to solve the crime. It's the police officers. It's strengthening the forensic lab. When we came into government, there was no forensic lab. There was no DPP's office. Those are all the things that we put in place. The government has done nothing over the last 5 years to strengthen any one of those things. And as a result of it, we've seen that the homicide rate under this government has consistently been over 70 homicides a year. Unprecedented. And to make matters worse, the vast majority of them have been gang-related, violent acts of violent crime. Persons have been caught in the crossfire. And it seems that the government is helpless in protecting persons. And as a result, people have taken matters in their own hand by staying at home, which has had a significant impact on our economy and, very importantly, on the quality of life of our citizens. What I want to speak about today is the SOS plan that we've put in place. This plan was designed specifically to meet the needs, we believe, of creating an immediate relief to the people of this country who have been suffering for the last 4.5 years, who have been oppressed and victimized and have been carrying the burden of this government, the economic burden of this government. So I want to speak specifically to the mortgage guarantee program that we've put in for young persons to be able to afford a first-time house. Persons are asking, how are we going to pay for that? Well, we're going to take some of the monies that the Taiwanese have put in, the $10 million US. We'll try to find other friendly countries to add on to that. And we're going to take some of the CIP funds to put a fund in place to provide some of the guarantees. But here's the part that the Labour Party would never have thought about. That we want to build new facilities, whether it be apartments or homes, for young persons. We want to encourage the introduction and the development of more contractors in St. Lucia. So young contractors who can get 5 or 6 persons to agree to build homes of a design. Our government is going to allow those homes to be built duty-free, all the materials. We're also going to allow the contractor to benefit from an income tax holiday on the profits he makes in building those 5 homes. What do we achieve? We're able to now build a home substantially cheaper than what it would have cost. But the bank is going to recognize what it would have cost without those incentives. That would lower the amount of money that would be required for persons to put in as their initial deposit. So if a house was actually worth on the market $100,000, but you were able to build the house really for $75,000, it lowers the amount of money that you have to borrow, but it increases the value of the property when the bank is assessing it and assessing your loan. So it means it would lower the amount of money that you would have to put in, because the extra value that government has given by reducing the duties and reducing the taxes for the contractor would be given as a credit to the young person. The monies that we have there are there to be as a backup and in order for us to get lower interest rates. So if we can put in low-cost money and in some cases grant monies, that means that the bank now has those on deposit and it can afford to now charge a lesser interest rate. And again, we will put tax incentives to the bank for first-time lenders to encourage them to do that. So that the way that the bank would normally make money, predominantly on fees and on interest rates, that the government would play its part by reducing the taxes and also the bureaucratic burdens and the cost, the stamp duties, etc., that a person would have to pay, adding significant value to the end of the day. We've thought about this because first-time homes are an absolute requirement. We know that the young people of this country aspire to owning their own home, having their own roof over their head, to give them that solid. The number of people that have been working in the tourism industry, manufacturing industry, as farmers, as young entrepreneurs, want to know that they have that nest egg available to them. And it represents their own progress in life. The $25,000 for startup to focus on agriculture, electronic, and hospitality. $10,000 cannot make a meaningful contribution in startup businesses. Our government, before demitting office in 2021, had already started this program by depositing monies into the St. Lucia Development Bank to specifically do that. And instead of creating a new bureaucracy called the youth economy, we were strengthening the St. Lucia Development Bank, where that bureaucracy already existed, and to make sure that 100% of the money that was being raised to on-lend to the young people of this country was available to them. Unlike what has taken place now, where of $10 million being made available, $5 million a year is being used to support the bureaucracy. And trying to reinvent all the experiences that the St. Lucia Development Bank has already learned. I want to make it clear. We intended to strengthen the administration of the St. Lucia Development Bank to make it easier for young persons to be able to get this initial capital. We have always believed in the private sector. We've always believed by allowing monies to circulate to many more persons that that's how you create equal development throughout the length and breadth of our country. And the young persons are the people that we need to be able to start with, which also includes persons who have been working already for a couple of years and now want to start their own business. So with the monies that they may have saved, and certainly with the experience that they've gained, we believe that government has an obligation to its citizens to make that happen. Creating an academy for robotics, AI, and other intellectual sectors is critical. We've repeatedly said that copywriting is the fastest way to earn money. Come up with an original idea and to be able to sell it internationally. So instead of having only to sell to 180,000 people in St. Lucia, if you take working adults, 90,000 people in St. Lucia, you can sell it to the billions of persons that are out in the world market. And we're seeing that the development of programming, apps, becoming with programs for AI and supporting AI. Internationally, people don't care where they get the technology from. They don't care where they get the intellectual property rights from. They're interested in that creativity. I have to tell you, when we brought Ojo Labs to St. Lucia in 2017, nobody knew what AI was. In fact, the current Prime Minister said it was mind-bending technology. Let's not forget that. Mind-bending technology. And bringing Ojo Labs to St. Lucia, which was using AI in the real estate market, do you know how much pride I had when there was a young man who started working there? And the owners of Ojo called me up after 6 months, and they're going to say, you know, Alan, we have some of the best trained engineers in Texas that we've recruited all around America, one of the tech hubs. And this young man, in 6 months, discovered a way to improve the performance of their program that those engineers did not. And this is a young man who did not have that training, but believed in his capacity, and he self-trained himself. Imagine what we can do if we actually create an academy to help facilitate faster learning for our young people, what they'll be able to do. And even when Ojo came here to St. Lucia, and thanks to Digicel, there was a saturation of cell phones. And the skill sets young people were learning on using their cell phones made them proficient and prolific in their call centers, particularly the ability to sell and multitask. So there's things that we're doing in our day-to-day life that can easily be translated. Somebody just needs to identify those skill sets. And for young people who can't understand anything else but are absorbed by the technology, we want to create an academy specifically for them. And that academy will not only have local tutors, but would have the ability of introducing international programs for training. And it'll be supported by our WeWork stations in all of our constituencies. a place where young people can go if you're doing online training. You don't have to stay at home, proper bandwidth, all the facilities, the whiteboards, conference rooms, printers, and also tutors would be available at those facilities. If you are working for an international company and you don't want to work from home, you have ability of going to a facility in your community where it'll be air conditioned, all of the technology will be available to you so that you will not be disadvantaged in trying to compete in the global market. Very near and dear to our heart was the free tuition at Sir Arthur Lewis College. And I've listened to some of my critics who have tried to say that we attempted to close down, or I tried to close down Sir Arthur Lewis. Well, the evidence is there for itself. I was in government for 5 years. We didn't close down Sir Arthur. In fact, we were trying to strengthen Sir Arthur. It was my administration that was reaching out through the then Minister of Education to bring other companies in, Brown College, Niagara College, to just name two, to help support the programming at Sir Arthur. What we were trying to do is to make sure that what we were providing as courses had relevance to the workforce and to strengthen those things. We also wanted to create a dedicated public service training academy, because we know the transition is coming with the public service. We're becoming a digital government. We didn't want to wait for people to be being displaced. We wanted to give the opportunity for the current civil servants to be that we would identify where the jobs are going to go and provide them with a free education at Sir Arthur Lewis College to facilitate that. Persons who want to make a career in the civil service, and that we know what those positions are to provide continual education to help support them. So I want to make it clear. This program is not just about the tuition. Tuition is important, but it's about the changes we're going to make at Sir Arthur Lewis College to identify curriculums to help support the population of this country to become more efficient, more productive, and as a result of those things, to earn more money. Young men in my constituency who are good electricians or good plumbers but have not become certified and have left school. What we're offering here is not just tuition free once you leave high school or secondary school, but it's after you're in the job place and you want to get job advancements, that we're going to be providing training for free to become a supervisor, to become a manager, to become better skilled, whether it's in accounting, whether it's in services, but very importantly, in tech. AI is great, but it's also a challenge, because there are certain jobs that AI will replace, but there are certain jobs that AI cannot replace. Cannot replace a plumber, can't replace an electrician, cannot replace a farmer, can't replace great equipment drivers. So the goal here is to broaden the programs that we offer at Sir Arthur, to improve the opportunity for more St. Lucians to be hired. It is disheartening to see hotel projects being built in St. Lucia. Secrets, Aliyah, and Canals. And the vast majority of persons that were involved in the construction of those properties are all foreigners. We have to make sure that we see these projects coming and we start training. That's why in 2016, we amended the NICE program and upgraded it to what we called a National Apprentice Program. And it started with getting young people onto the cruise ships. And we were now seeing construction projects coming in. So it was to train basic construction workers, steel bending, welders, supervisors. And so that when the companies came here, we knew that we had the requisite amount of persons ready to do the job. And the government has to find a mechanism that they get paid properly for those skill sets. That's why we give incentives to the hotels. That's why we give concessions to the hotels, so that they have the ability to make sure they pay our people properly. But we must also make sure that our people are trained properly. So we're now going to take NAP to another level. Take some of the qualities of NAP and include it now in what we're doing at Sir Arthur Lewis. And we're going to have an institution that has a long-term vision of where the jobs are going to be going. Job placement program at Sir Arthur. And as I said, very importantly, Sir Arthur will be your institution for life. Home economics, cooking, basic skill sets you need at home, but also skill sets to make sure that you're getting proper jobs. Our second chance program is essential. I've said repeatedly, the government has lost the battle with the gangs. The gangs have done a better job in recruiting young people. The pathway to success that we've had in St. Lucia, many young people have opted out of. The dedication to going to a job and not getting paid enough. And enough means not only getting basic needs, but being able to save money to buy a home, to live a lifestyle that every young person aspires for. I can't criticize a young person for wanting a nice phone and nice clothes, having a car, being able to go out with their friends and buying a drink, buying dinner. We have to be realistic that we failed. We saw it in our education system, the number of young men in particular that were graduating from primary school, not being able to read and write, barely passing their exams. But the next step was for them to go to secondary school. And within 2 years or less, they dropped out because the basic skills of reading and writing and critical thinking were not there. The support system at home was not there, and they weren't seeing where this was going to lead to. And they opted to go to gangs. That's our reality. And so the Second Chance program is to work to get those persons back and involved and engaged in our society in a meaningful way. And the first step of that is to lay down your arms. To reject a life of violence and law-breaking. So our Second Chance program is being designed with the clear intention of helping bring back young persons into our society to make a contribution, to become taxpayers, to help improve the productivity of our country and to grow our economy. But more importantly, they're not going to have to be looking over their shoulder every day as to who's coming from them, for them, and to lay down the arms. Our farmers' pension, if I had any doubts that this was a necessary program, is when I met persons in my own constituency, some of them in their late 80s, early 90s, who feel neglected, who feel unappreciated for all the work that they did in the early days of developing the banana sector that contributed so much to the economy. And they're left alone. No money. And in some cases, I know their families are taking care of them. But their pride. These were hard-working people that were accustomed to doing things for themselves. and the respect that we owe them to put some money in their pocket, and particularly coming from a government that's showing that level of appreciation. I think that there are many other sectors that qualify, and this is the beginning of us paying tribute to our elders and making sure that we take care of them. I heard that this government wanted to offer civil servants for a second year in a row a $500 bonus. What I was taken back by is that the government was not prepared to commit to anything more than that. I would say that some people believe it's actually just an election gimmick that they're offering. So I made it very clear in my address a couple of days ago that the government will honor the promises of making public servants permanent. We will not interfere with that process. We'll embrace it. And secondly, that we will honor the bonus that was offered to the civil servants. But we want to take it a step further. And my party wants to commit that if we are elected, that we're going to make a bonus system, an annual bonus system, institutionalized in the civil service. But that requires negotiation. Cannot make these decisions in absence of sitting down with the unions. So one of the first things that we will do is we will pay the $500 bonus this year, and we'll immediately commence negotiations with the unions and the civil servants as to what's the best way to pay that money and how it should be, how should we determine the amount and who should be getting that bonus. I would not be so presumptuous to say that we're going to make that decision by ourselves, but we're committed to the principle, the policy, that there should be an annual bonus regime put in place for our civil servants. So those are some of the things that I wanted to speak of. I also wanted to take the time, if I can, is that there is a proposed event that's coming up on Sunday, where the government is proposing to go to, quote unquote, open St. Jude's. History is there for us to see that this same government under Kenny Anthony in 2015, when they realized that they were not going to be able to open up OKEU, but they were being pressured by the Europeans who had given us the gift, who were tired because the building had been finished, the equipment was there, and the government was refusing to open up OKEU. And I remember the dialysis machines that were there, and I argued that they should at least open up the dialysis lab, because in those days the dialysis system was so inadequate that urgency, they should have opened it up. If I'm not mistaken, that's where the famous saying, "Moi fâché." Well, I want to say again today, "Moi fâché," that this government, while in opposition, was so opposed to opening up a brand new hospital, went on a scheme, and let's call it again, directly trying to deceive the people with facts. In the dictionary, that means a lie. A lie is to deliberately try to deceive people. They said to the people that the hospital was almost completed all the way back in 2015. St. Jude's. And that when the decision was made after a proper report that cost $1 million with certified people, not party hacks, giving a free assessment that was done in 2021. They said that St. Jude's, the old building, which they had already spent $130 million and 7 years in trying to construct. They said it was near completion. In fact, they said that all was missing, and that's when a minister of government, an engineer that ought to have known better, chemical and some paint. And at most, it was going to cost $30 million. And that my administration only wanted to build a new building because we wanted to give it to a particular contractor. Time allows us to reveal the truth. So the truth is that this government has now spent $300 million on top of the $100 million they originally spent. So they've now spent $400 million and spent in excess of 12 years trying to rehabilitate an 80-year-old building, which a technical group said would be almost impossible. I want my fellow St. Lucians to listen to that number. $400 million. OKEU was 60 million euro. The HI airport was estimated to cost $300 million. A brand new building, 3 floors, jetways, everything. And we've now spent $400 million. To add insult on injury, and that is where moi fâché comes in, that on Sunday that this government is going to go and do a ribbon cutting to try to convince the public of St. Lucia that they're handing over the building. They realized that they weren't going to get away with that. So they've been busy this week trying to figure out how they could move some people into the new building. And listen to what's going to happen. They're going to open up the rehabilitation building. I want to remind you, rehabilitation was one of the buildings that we had demolished and rebuilt back as a mini box. They're going to open up the administrative room, which we had already completed in 2021. They're going to open up the kitchen downstairs, which substantive work had already been done. They flipped it, creating work for themselves to create a cafeteria there. They want to open that. The laundry room, which was well advanced already by 2021. That's it. That's who's moving in on Sunday. Some of the administrative staff, the cafeteria, and the rehab. And out of embarrassment, they're not going to move the dialysis room, saying that they need to be doctors and nurses there for the dialysis. Nonsense. The dialysis lab and the rehabilitation lab were separate buildings to the main building because they are called outpatient facilities. Yes, persons who are in the hospital can go to rehab, and yes, they can go to dialysis. But all those other persons who are not in the hospital, who depend on rehab and depend on dialysis, can come to a separate building without going into the hospital. And this is a government that says they care. It's a prime minister that would look at all of us and say that, I love you. These are just words. There are no deeds to support those words. As I said in my speech 2 nights ago, no matter how many ribbon cuttings you do, it's not going to save anybody's life. No matter how many ceremonies you do at St. Jude's, none of those are going to make people's lives better and improve the quality of health care in this country. I'm asking all St. Lucians, don't be fooled. If anything, be upset, feel betrayed of the lies. Yesterday, when I was in my constituency, I met with one of my constituents who was in a car accident a year ago. And there was damage to her foot, which still has not been repaired. She's now given up on getting the proper medication here in St. Lucia. Has now asked her daughter, who's living in Martinique, to help her go to Martinique. My heart was broken. Because the St. Jude's Hospital for us was not just replacing St. Jude's as we know it, which would have been downstairs, but would have been an international hospital upstairs with a helicopter pad. It means that that woman would not need to go to Martinique, that she would have had a hospital that would be as good, if not even better, than what was offered in Martinique. And Cayman Health City is already doing it in Cayman. And they're doing it at 50 other hospitals around the world. That's what we lost. So appreciate how disappointed I am, how heartbroken I am that persons in St. Lucia should have had the international hospital open already with a helicopter pad. And the helicopter pad is important. So instead of helicoptering people from Castries to Martinique, if you are in an emergency situation, you can be helicoptered straight to Vieux-Fort, to the international hospital. An elevator brings you straight into the emergency center. And also, we have to think of the finances of running a hospital. We see what's going on. By having an international hospital with a local hospital, they would have shared the cost of running the labs, the MRI, X-ray machines, the administration, the maintenance, would have been shared, reducing the cost of healthcare in the South. I'll speak about our healthcare insurance, which is a significant component to bringing quality healthcare to St. Lucians. We're making it compulsory that every single St. Lucian makes a contribution to our healthcare insurance. Persons who are working in high-paying jobs will share that cost with their company, $50 a month. Persons in lower-paying jobs, we're going to make it sure that the businesses pay that amount for you. And in the case of civil servants, persons above a certain pay grade will make a 50% contribution, $50 a month. Persons below a certain pay grade, government will pay it. Government would pay the contribution for the unemployed. Government's going to pay the contribution for the pensioners. So there's money coming in from everyone, directly from businesses, the individuals, or from the government. Not everybody is going to get sick or need health care in the same year. It's not the intention that everybody is going to get $75,000 every year, because nobody's going to go to the hospital every year. But like an insurance scheme, it is a collection of resources that takes into consideration how frequently people are going to the hospital to make sure that that money is there. And it's not going to go into the consolidated account. It's going to go into an insurance fund. So when you go to a healthcare center, you go to a hospital, or you go to your doctor, you sign off on what was done for you and agreed, and that institution then applies to the insurance company to be reimbursed. And it's the reimbursement of those expenses that has now bankrupt our healthcare system, because government has not put funds in place to do that. Government gives the hospitals a quarterly allocation, as if people get sick evenly. I get paying salaries, I get paying utilities, which government will continue to do. But the replacement for the Panadol, the replacement for the syringes, for the sutures, for all of the P equipment, that's not being done. And that is why there is a crisis as we speak at OKEU, where they're telling people, don't come, because there's only floor space left at the emergency halls, A&E. And there are persons who need to get a bed, cannot get a bed, and they're waiting on the floor until a bed becomes available. There are persons that waited so long on the floor, they decided to go home and wait for the hospital to call them. That is where we are. That is the failure of this government. And on December 1st, we have an opportunity to right that wrong, to hold this government accountable for telling the truth, to hold this government accountable for how they spend taxpayers' money. Let us not lose that opportunity, St. Lucia. Let us use this gift that the Prime Minister has given us to allow us to have a say in the matter right now. We must tell this government resoundingly that what they have done has been a betrayal to the people of this country. Come and support United Workers' Party with these SOS programs so we can get your life back on track and empower you to take care of yourself. Thank you.
Thank you very much. You just heard from the political leader of the United Workers' Party, all of the woes that we are going through, but more importantly, how those problems are going to be resolved through the policies, the forward-thinking, visionary policies of the United Workers' Party. Ladies and gentlemen, hope has become alive, given the fact that the date of election has been announced. Come the 1st of December, you, St. Lucians, have to give meaning to hope and have to bring hope to reality by playing your part in going out and voting for the United Workers' Party to effect a change of government and a change in our circumstances to bring a better life and to bring development back to St. Lucia. I will now call on our next presenter, that is the endorsed candidate for the constituency of Micoud North, and that is Mr. Elisha Norbert, who will address you.
Thank you very much, sir. Sunday marked the end of a long wait and the dawn of a new beginning. Jean Micoud, Jean Saint-Licy, tout le monde ici, tout le monde l'autre pays, tout le monde qui a regardé sur Internet là. Un bel bonjour pour vous tous. You see, yesterday, while walking through my constituency, a number of persons told me that they were pleased with my contributions in the Senate. Mais yon madame dit moi, il voulait moi parler patois, plus because les moi parler patois, ils savent moi plus sérieux, les n'a servi langue maman nous tout. So this morning I will use Creole as well as English, so that we know that those who have presented themselves to us on this side are encouraged to be true to our culture. You see, on Sunday, St. Lucia was relieved. Dimanche, on Chai Saint-Licy senti on Chai sort asou do yo. Yo senti soulagement. Les dates élection te mentionné. 1er jour décembre. nous avons une opportunité pour nous choisir un set nom qui sérieux about pays Saint-Lucie, plus passer yo sérieux about politics. Dernier 4 l'année, c'est un 4 l'année qui était mauvais, wed, difficile by un chay Saint-Lucien. Un chay di nous te ka vivre en Perez. Un chay di nous souffert parce que nous ten pour dépenser dans supermarket là. C'est pour nous just chen ko nous vivant. Cost of living was higher than we have ever seen before. The poor mental health, stress dans tête nous, dans cerveau nous, te tout haut. Et pour faire plus worse, nous te un premier ministre qui a joué et puis on date élection à quoi dit c'est lui qui bon Dieu Saint-Lucie. Crime nous pas jamais ouais avant. L'année moun qui a still ton son balle, ton son maman ka hele en chemin Saint-Lucie. Assez c'est assez. Ouais Saint Jude's. When they Saint Jude say the saint of the impossible was up. Juste un jour qu'on dit après 12 l'année gouvernement les bas yo fait pour ban nous Saint Jude's. 12 l'année yo travaille sur même structure 400 million 400 millions dollars. Et puis dimanche yo kay aller ouvert yon de ti section et ces section yo ka ouvert c'est part of building gouvernement flambeau travail soi abo di abo fes Mike Saint-Lucie ACCAC ou pas katan representative Vieux-Fort South côté l'hôpital a supposé fait là côté airport nou ya yo pas ka di rien yo pas ka meye pressure Vieux-Fort North ministre health pas ka mette pressure Dr. Shanda ka vina dans Mikou South un docteur qui supposé savent misi stress là les autres docteurs ka aller là docteur ka yo juste vle quitter docteur et a fait teacher yo vle quitter cette lycée parti koui parce moun ka blâmer c'est docteur mais yo pas nou remède yo pas un équipement yo en dans petit space yo pas ça fait travail yo bien assez c'est assez il est pour nous mettre Saint-Lucie en haut political parties agendas on seul gouvernement moi hawe les moi study history politique Saint-Lucie qui ka met développement pays même si yo perd élection mais yo ka fait ça yo wè qui primaire pour pays et pas ça yo wè ka mener yo plus votes c'est United Workers Party government et n'a changé in addition pour moun kon Sir John la Mikou North n'a changé moun kon Stewart nous ka kouye Dirty moun kon Harry moun kon Wendy kon Claude un jeune garçon qui mort en l'Empire bois en Mikou North Miss Florentine Miss Anto c'est moun sa qui travaille pour faire assurer vision ce John continue dans Mikou North et dans whole Saint-Lucie parce que John c'était un homme qui était un pays en chain nous vous invitons mes gouvernements qui kay point ces documents ce John qui était ban nous plan pour développer Saint-Lucie pour vivre en first world status. La dernière development plan, nous avons abandonné chaque gouvernement. Non. Nous ne pouvons mettre tête nous ensemble comme on te dit en house là. Et moi happy, moi-même te soulagé dimanche le matin. On the 1st of December, Saint-Lucien, nous avons une chance pour électer nom, ou li won nom ek femme ou li won whole pays. Laura dans la brûle autant madame ça parler ou ça pas politique, c'est community development. Lady Olivier Fort et Miss Marcella Johnson en Grosile. Laissez femmes ça parler ou savent, c'est pas politique si vous venez jouer. It's going to be about governance. As I said in the beginning, Sunday marked the end of a long wait. The dawn of a new beginning is here, St. Lucia. The people of St. Lucia, this is what the United Workers' Party is offering, and this is what you are voting for. Jeunesse Saint-Lucie, si vous pas fait bien l'école, on chay moun ka fa ou kwe lave ou habout. Mais gouvernement flambeau kay met un second chance programme en place. Alors qui un CXI, qui un pan CXI, ou kay sa hand skills, ek la kay yon de center kay ouvert, même kon NSDC mais primaire, advanced, plus attractive. Si nous pour mener c'est Jean-Mi quoi que ça, attends moi dit ça. Si nous pour mener driving school en plus près, nous kay mener plus près pour faire siwe. Jeunesse ni le meilleur, c'est ça yo. So yo kay ça travail. Hen en manière pour aider bâti, aider build Saint-Lucie. Every citizen has a responsibility to contribute towards the building up of our country. And we want to ensure that we empower you with the skills and the right attitudes and the discipline to take this country forward. Even after leaving secondary school with CXCs, we see many students not being able to access tertiary education at SAFA because their parents cannot pay for them to do their little CAPE courses, their little associate's degree courses, even a certificate. Sometimes it's just too much, maybe 800, 1,300, and the parents simply cannot afford. The United Workers' Party has agreed that we will contribute the tuition fees. C'est mais ça pas kay ni pour payer tuition. Et qui possible? On chay moun ka di ko gouvernement ka hen l'argent pour faire ça. Moi vle dire Saint-Lucie. Ministry a hani l'argent là pour aider on chay mamay et tertiary education bursaries et puis transport et puis ti l'argent pour manger mais il pas assez. Alors nous kay me pli l'argent, fait pli l'argent available pour faire assurer ces mamay tout mamay qui ga aller ça faire. Qui c'est associate degree yo, qui c'est certificate pour apprendre une machine, yo pas kay payer tuition. Ça sans promettre. Et moi ça dou parce que moi même benefit from gens famille moi qui met ensemble pour voyer moi l'école. Nous savons si en bas nous besoin et que nous pas faire pièce excuse. Et que si Labor Jacques a dit ça torche pour faire, savent si yo gen yo pas y faire. Depuis yo ka me doubt en tête ou qui manière yo ka faire ça, savent yo pas kay faire. Ça pas priority yo. On chay c'est jeunesse là yo quitter ça affaire. Yo vle ouvrir un petit business. C'est 4e point là. Yo vle ouvrir un petit business, yo pas ni l'argent pour faire. La tenant organisation SLDB, yo te ka bay l'argent. Il est 25,000 goud pour aider ces mamay là commencer business yo. Les bas point ça là mais SLDB yo ouvre l'autre organisation pour yo même dit c'est yo ka fait. Méchanceté a contrôlé pour top longtemps Saint-Lucie. So gouvernement flambeau kay vie mais 25,000 goud available by jeune moun qui voulait ouvrir business en agriculture. You see, we are going to start an operation and I will coin the operation Feed the Nation. Because ensuring that we have food security in this country is priority number 1. So she men farmer kay wan he kay maintain so yo pa vie condition yo ye la. Farmer kay hen SLBJ farmers kay hen pension yo pour faire assurer l'argent nous te prend from yo pour build up pays pour faire chimé fait différents building gouvernement, nous honor contribution yo et nous vie ba yon ti kakadan kon yo bouzen à présent yo passe à travail. Moi aimer jeunesse. Et n'a vie dit encore. Ça qui pas fait bon l'école, là dans second chance programme ba yo. Ça qui fait bien l'école et qui kay ça faire, nous kay payer tuition fees ba yo. Là yo sort ça faire yo vle faire un petit business. Nous ka ba yo pas 5000 goud. Et nous pas dit yo 20 tak shares a business yo ban nous non. Nous ka ba yo 25000 goud pour aider yo. Nous ka ba yo training pour faire assurer là ba yo la ça, yo discipline. Et que yo fait ça yo di yo kay faire et que yo manager business yo bien. So yo ça benefit, Saint-Lucien ça benefit, commune yo ça benefit from ça yo vle faire. In addition to that, land maman qui pas vle faire business agriculture, yo pas vle faire hair design, yo pas faire jebay kon. Mais yo ça ouvert ça nous ka kouye e-businesses. Yo ça engage en e-commerce. Yo ça ouvert website, yo ça fait apps. Yo ça code fait website et AI ka fait un chay bay pli aisé. So nous kay ouvert, nous kay continuer expand ouvert, ça nous ka kouye digital academies. Ko c'est maman là on y homework qui aime wete un gadget yo. Yo ça fait n'importe bayan les phone ou ba ou, n'importe bayan les laptop ou. Nous kay point passion ça, interest ça yo ni et nous kay bien train yo. So yo ça compete internationally. Yo ça van app qui moun whole only one la terre kay ve ça yo fait di ça sent bon bail et moins savent Saint-Lucie sans place qui en chay pi pour offert by whole la terre. Nous have contributions from Safa, Derek Walcott et quand chay Saint-Lucien nous pour même turn about qui a fait grand différence only one la terre. So l'autre point moi veux dire about jeunesse. Là yo quitter l'école, nous aider yo faire business, nous aider yo hand skills pour yo faire business online. Yo kay vle faire un kay comment. C'est jeunesse là qui kay vle faire kay, premier coup yo vle faire kay là. Nous kay aider yo et nous kay guarantee mortgage yo ba yo. Nous kay guarantee mortgage yo. Mardi nous ka ba yo 400,000 goud pour faire kay. Et les balaka di koyo kay pon la ça ou quoi yo ça bay tout monde 500,000 goud pour faire kay, c'est pas ça nous dit. Ou ha connaître les banak yo opposition because you opposition right now. You can just faire opposition à sous tout point nous ka fait pour faire zo quoi c'est mama gay nous ka mama gay zo mais non. C'est un signature en chaque place ka bay 100% financing. De l'on signature nous pour bay. De l'anti 40,000. L'argent ça nous kay point la main CIP moun qui ka invest dans pays à quoi nous ka point la ça pour bail jeunesse. Et c'est pas jeunesse là dans chay gros moun yo poko ça afford en kay. Et yo ni ish yo vle quitter en bail yo. Yo vle build up ça nous ka kouye generational wealth. So nous kay aider moun qui a travail combien l'année mais yo pas afford pour acheter un short ek fan kay. Nous kay garantie ces loans ça ba yo. Ouais, l'année politicien qui just vini 4 l'année passée. Yo la ka fait 3-4 kay. Yo la ka fait housing complex kin bo 40 apartment pour yo disons vin rent la mais yo. Et oni maman papa qui a vivre whole la vie yo, travail pour faire payer nous. Et que pas ça afford pour na kay cost of living toho matrio toho just l'autre jour nous moun qui vle acheter plein ka hen VAT exemption mais moun qui vle faire kay yo pour wete Saint-Lucie pas hen anti VAT exemption et comment dit en house là si VAT la toho tiye pas pour un jour tiye hen l'autre manière pour generate tax because a chaile l'argent taxe là nous ka met ensemble là yo ka voler because sous point bail ou pas ka di moun qui manière ou servi c'est voler comment c'est pas ça ou comment maman Saint-Lucie Jean Saint-Lucie nous not choice pour faire. Mortgage guarantees using CIP money is a brilliant idea. Let us build up our country with the United Workers' Party. Leader of opposition, c'est office li moye. Maintenant future prime minister, le December 1st guy vini, Honorable Alan Chastanet, il dit il kay chen se pon met la gouvernement a fait by public servants, sans vote public. C'est bonus là, yo kay chen ça. C'est moun ki ka pon ke gwan moun. Elderly care services ek ça. Un bail qui important because nous kay nan chay pli moun qui kay vin gwan Saint-Lucie, qui kay bonzen aide. Nous kay chen permanent status ça. Ça veut dire personne pas ka pèt da hay yo les flambeaux entoué. We care about your mental health. We do not want to cause unnecessary anxiety. So diyo pa vin manti bokaizo. Personne ka fait ta hay yo as mwen apon zo as son period probation. Depuis zo fait bien, pas worry ou di nou kay fè zo pèt ta hay zo. Non. United Workers Party kay lead ek an politics ki net. Nou kay govern epi l'amitié by dernier Saint-Lucien. Parce que nous savons yon hurricane ça passe Saint-Lucie et puis demain politics fini, nous toutes jaune, rouge, vert, peuple, nous n'y pour vivre ensemble. Alors nous pour ça mais politics à sous côté, les nous ka fait décision qui un bénéfice pays Saint-Lucie. Moi jusqu'à temps parler de concession by moun qui en business, bus drivers, en Sénat là, yo di yo ka bay moun qui veut faire bâtiment sort l'autre pays Barbados, ay Saint-Lucie van bay, yo ka bay yo VAT free exemption. Sav qui vive c'est minibus driver. Ça qui veut c'est farmer qui veut équipement yo. Et puis Sénateur a dit, ça ka dit là, tout minibus driver ka hen duty free concession, tout farmer ka hen bay yo et moi hen et puis un farmer qui nan go pompe, il bousin clair. Et puis il pas afford pour payer taxe là qui en là donc là Saint-Lucien December the 1st nous kay commencer bail 9 Saint-Lucie nous kay commencer gouverner Saint-Lucie nous kay vier ka gouverner Saint-Lucie Adam manière John kay senti koy proud kay dit Saint-Lucie ka vient les right track là. Saint-Lucie, c'est sans nous. Jean Mikou, 4 années qui dépassé, Mikou c'était sans nous tout ça yo te ka di quoi. Nous tout dedans, Mikou c'est sans nous à présent, à quoi dit c'est yo yon qui en, à quoi dit c'est yo yon qui ka mené, à quoi dit c'est yo yon qui ka bay. Nous avons décision pour faire. Yo la Mikou ka tiye flag akwe di idlers lancer ça yo. Mais pas moli. 1st of December, nous kay vie fait tout monde savent. Tout Jean Mikou, tout Jean Saint-Lucie. Qui ou disable, qui ou normal, qui ou jeune, qui ou gwan, qui ou l'hôpital, qui ou la hall ou supposé hen justice and equality. Justice and equality for all. Tout le monde supposé traiter bien. We are going to bring a new dawn to St. Lucia's politics. Something I like to call politics without bitterness. Wait for it. It is coming. You have a decision to make. Place an X next to the United Workers' Party's candidate in your constituency and ensure that St. Lucia returns on the path of prosperity. Thank you. Good morning.
Thank you very much, Mr. Norbert, Elisha Norbert. And you just heard from the young man, endorsed candidate for the constituency of Micoud North, that we are on the dawn of a new kind of politics, and that will begin on the 1st of December. But mind you, the first step in that new journey into that bright future is on your part. You must go out on election day and ensure that you cast your vote as he requested from you for the candidate of the United Workers' Party in your constituency, to ensure that you have a new government with all the policies and plans for a brighter future for the people of St. Lucia. Ladies and gentlemen, we have heard some exciting, bright policies from the United Workers' Party, from the leader and the candidate who is here right now, Mr. Norbert. And that is very encouraging, considering those plans cover every single St. Lucian. Retirees, elderly, the youth was not forgotten, was not left behind. Exciting new policies that will bring a brighter day to St. Lucia and St. Lucians. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to ask the political leader, the Honorable Alan Chastanet, to return to the podium. And on this occasion, he will just remind you, lest we forget some of the losses that we have suffered over the last 4 years, because to ensure that we secure that brighter future for the coming 5 years, we cannot forget the losses that we have suffered in the last 4 years, and to make that same mistake again. Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you our next Prime Minister, the Honorable Alan Chastanet.
Thank you very much, Mr. Montoute. I want to remind us again of the definition of a lie, which is the deliberate attempt to deceive. So it means when somebody tells you something that they know that is not true, but they're saying it to you because they want you to think of something else and not the truth. The Prime Minister, Philip Pay, said it himself. He said he is a mystery. Is that what St. Lucians deserve? A Prime Minister of mystery when you're dealing with the governance of this country? That people have to be guessing? I'm proud of the fact that during my administration, even when what we had to say was uncomfortable, we never chose to deceive anyone about what the truth was. But this government has made it a habit to deceive people. If I look at the CIP program, I honestly believe that this government called the election a year early because it did not want to be truthful to the people of this country. If in fact that they had done what they were supposed to have done, which is to have laid the audited report in front of the House, which they could have done and should have done at the last session, that report would have revealed to us how much money the government has collected. Now, Richard Frederick said it for them. He said that the government collected in the last year $240 million. Nobody in government has come out to say that that's true or not true. We have no idea how many passports were issued. I do know that senior staff at the immigration office in charge of the passports were recently transferred. Is that coincidence? We also know that the contracts that were issued to Galaxy and the contracts that were issued to BMAX were made public and were part of the court case. The judge, in our application to have an injunction against this government from issuing any passports under the Galaxy real estate program or the Galaxy infrastructure program or BMAX. So we didn't put an injunction against the entire CIP program, only on those specific programs of which there has been no transparency. And the contracts that were written are questionable. In the case of Galaxy's hotel, they increased the allocation of passports from 1,000 files, 4,000 passports, to 6,000 files, 24,000 passports. They increased the allocation of funds from $300 million to build a $300 million hotel to $1.2 billion. The government in the contract also said that the administrative fee that's supposed to be coming to the country, they've paid that administrative fee to Galaxy. We asked a simple question to the court. Does that make sense? Why would they do that? In the infrastructure program, they gave Galaxy another 6,000 files. It's another 24,000 passports, which had a street value, a market value of $600 million. And I'm quoting the contract, the quid pro quo, the arrangement made was that Galaxy would get the 600 million and Galaxy would turn around and give the government $100 million. We asked if that made sense and whether it was even legal. When we applied for the injunction, 3 weeks later, the government came out and wrote to the court and said to the court, no need for the injunction because we've already suspended the programs, the infrastructure program for BMAX and for Galaxy, and we've terminated those contracts. So I want to be very clear what the decision of the court was. The court said that they deem that cabinet conclusion as binding, which means that the government has said to the court that they will not process any of the applications for the infrastructure program until the court hearing, which starts in January. United Workers' Party is making a commitment. We will find the money and make sure that St. Lucia is getting what it deserves to get. We're making a further commitment. So if we take the $240 million, of which we don't know, Richard Frederick said it, we're committing that 20% of that money will go towards helping people rehabilitate their homes. Single mothers struggling to have a safe roof over their head, a safe place for their child to live. Elderly persons who don't even have pit latrines. Persons who are unemployed and are struggling. That those monies will be put into the local council. So if we take $240 million, 20%, $48 million, $50 million, about $3 million will be put into the town councils with a system as to how and who gets what. Don't have to take any long lines, don't have to put any applications. You can do it from your constituency level because we need to deal not only with new houses, but the condition of the existing houses as a matter of urgency in this country. Can't be that the rep has money in his pocket to go and give people without any level of criteria and with the expectation that I'm helping you, you help me by getting a vote. Cannot be using states' funds to support politics. We must make sure that everyone has access to those monies. There must be a transparent and accountable manner in which it's done. And I think that the town councils are the rightful place to be able to do that. GPH. How does the government explain this deal? A deal in which never went out to tender. All we heard, it was a secret deal. And we've now found out that the government has agreed to lease the ports for $1 a year for 40 years. 30 years in the first instance with an extension for another 10 years, up to 40 years. We know that the government has given up the $6.50 it was collecting and gave it to GPH. We also know that the government increased the fee to $12 and that Galaxy is going to get $10 and $2 is supposed to be coming to the government of St. Lucia. Even that, we don't know where the $2 is going. But what we do know is that the price to come to St. Lucia is now $12, and the price to go to other islands has remained below $6. And we have seen that in the last year and a half, the number of cruise ship arrivals have declined. In fact, this summer, cruise ship arrivals to St. Lucia was down 80%. That is per their own statistics. I want to come and tell us that there's going to be a 10% increase. The 10% increase does not even bring us back to where we were in 2019. Almost 900,000 cruise ship arrivals. And all the money was coming to the government of St. Lucia, between SLASPA and the government of St. Lucia and solid waste. So why would you have given away the money? Why would you have given them tax-free holidays, all kinds of concessions for the 40 years? Why would you allow them to use the land as collateral to take the bank loan? A bank loan that was in NIC, like what you did with Cabot. NIC makes money by lending money, and by earning money on those things helps extend the pension plans. So they put so much political pressure on Cabot. Cabot paid off its loan early. And now the same loan that NIC had with SLASPA has been terminated, and instead of giving a government guarantee, they've given the land as collateral. So it means if anything goes wrong with GPH and GPH walks away, the Bank of St. Lucia now will have ownership and the rights of our port. Why? Every time we ask for an answer, we're not given one. We're told about secret deals, confidentiality, that this is good for us. That's all they can tell us, but they can't give us any details as how this is a good deal for us. Why is it you would ask GPH to do the things that we could do for ourselves? And the most recent revelation, as if that was not damning enough, was SLASPA has taken a loan for $40 million to strengthen the Northern Wharf, and that's where the Oasis class ships are going. So after having a potential earning of $400 million over the next 40 years, minimum, could be even more, and that SLASPA has no revenue coming from the cruise ships, SLASPA is taking the loan for $40 million. And remember the hypocrisy. They said, oh, GPH paid off the loan for $20 million. NLA, $80 million loan, and we now found out that they borrowed another $30 million. So NLA now has borrowed $110 million. The $30 million is for the aquatic Olympic-sized swimming pool, a pool that was originally supposed to cost $12 million, went to $20 million, and is now $30 million. So NLA is paying out $1 million a month for the loan and has no money left to support any sporting programs or scholarships. And to make matters worse, we don't know how the contractors were selected. $80 million was spent. We have no idea where it's gone, what it went for. But the Prime Minister is a mystery. Halls of Justice, again, no bid. Instead of doing the loan through the NIC, and that's what we were doing with the police headquarters and the courthouses. No, you go and do it through a selected contractor who's also providing you with financing. And the information that's coming out, the financing costs 10%. So the building is costing $150 million, but to service the loan is another $150 million. $300 million is being spent on the halls of justice. And how can we translate whether that's value for money? It is going to cost the taxpayers of this country $16 a square foot. That's twice the amount of any other rent we're paying. Put it in perspective with the Dairhair Mall at $4 a square foot. And the new Supreme Court that went to the Dairhair Mall, the vision of United Workers' Party, is $8 a square foot. Where's the transparency? But we have a Prime Minister of mystery. St. Jude's, $400 million. And all we're going to get is a building. Up to now, the government cannot guarantee us that it's going to be a real hospital. And here's the one that I want to really speak about. Mr. Montoute, if you can pass me the social and economic review. I've heard repeatedly the Prime Minister speaking about the economic performance of the country. And it's interesting, again, a lie is deliberately trying to deceive the people, providing false information in order that you can come to a false conclusion. The Prime Minister continuously wants to tell us what a great job that he has done with debt of this country. And he makes specific reference to 2021. 2021 was in the middle of the COVID crisis. All other countries in the world used 2019 as their benchmark. So pre-COVID, post-COVID. It makes sense. Where was your economy in 2019? And how close have you come to recovering to get back to where you were in 2019? Because every country knew that COVID caused the GDPs of their countries to contract. St. Lucia's contracted by 20-something% because of our dependence on tourism. And the GDP had just recently been revised to increase the contribution of tourism. That had not happened in the other islands. And when we believed that tourism was going to recover post-COVID, you remember what the Prime Minister said. Only Alan Chastanet and United Workers' Party believes that tourism is going to come back. Not my words, his words. And today you want to tout the recovery of the country on the back of tourism? And you want to take credit for that? I'd like to know that if in fact you genuinely did believe and understood tourism, how much further ahead we would be. But let's get back to the debt. In 2019, pre-COVID, the debt to GDP was 60%. And more importantly, in 2019, the total amount of debt was 3.4 billion EC dollars. The following year, the debt went up by just under $300 million. And in 2021, it went up by another $300 million. So if we take our first 3 years, 2017, 2018, and 2019, the debt increased by $300 million in 3 years. $100 million a year. If we now take the 3 years after COVID, 22, 23, and 24, the debt went from 4.1 billion to 5.1 billion. $1 billion of added debt. Let me make that comparison again. I know people get confused by numbers, but it's important that we appreciate and understand what those numbers are. For the first 3 years, in 2017, 18, and 19, United Workers' Party managed the economy where we grew the economy, and debt only grew by $100 million a year. In fact, we were growing the economy faster than the debt was growing, which is what you want to have. Because of COVID, $700 million between 2020 and 2021 were added. And it's understandable. Revenue dropped. We needed to borrow money to make up the shortfall so we could pay salaries, we could pay for the operating cost of the government, and we could pay the debt of our country. That's what the money was primarily used for in those 2 years. And plans were put in place to get concessional debt, meaning that we got monies that was 40 years to repay with a 10-year moratorium and at 0.5% of interest. So yes, it increased the absolute amount of money that we had on the books for debt, but it reduced the amount of payments that we would have to make on a monthly basis. And the government of St. Lucia in the last 3 years, compared to our first 3 years, has added $1 billion. 3.5 times more. $300 million for the first 3 years, and $1 billion in the last 3 years. And we have no idea what the numbers are going to be for 2025. None. Because the government has deprived that. The government has felt it's better to go to elections a year early because it does not want to present those numbers in the House. Does not want to reveal the CIP report. It doesn't want to tell you what the true tourism numbers are going to be. It doesn't want to tell you the state of the economy. And more importantly, they don't want us to know what that debt number is going to be this year. In terms of percentages, and the numbers are right here. The debt to GDP in 2019 was 60%. In 2020, when the GDP dropped, the debt to GDP went to 92%. Understandably, because your GDP declined by 20% that year. The following year, based on the plans United Workers' Party put in place to recover the economy and to spend money on fixing up roads and pushing the construction sector, because that was the only sector we could get involved in because the rest of the world was shut down, the debt to GDP dropped to 81%. And in 2022, with the plans that we left over and the continued recovery in construction and also in tourism, the debt to GDP dropped to 69%. And in 2023 and 2024, because of the borrowings of this government and adding more debt, the debt to GDP went up to 73%. That's what the Prime Minister didn't tell you. And what is sad is I honestly believe that if in fact the government had continued with the plans United Workers' Party had already placed on the ground, Cabot, DSH, cruise ship terminal in the south, continued with the tavern projects, continued with the Shock projects, continued with the Rodney Bay Road projects. We had already purchased the land at Mont Piedmont and at Shock. It's because we purchased the land at Mont Piedmont that the Aliyah Group were able to purchase it. The same Aliyah Group that were here in St. Lucia during COVID. I can say to you that there's no way that I would have allowed the Marriott project to have stopped. I would not have allowed the DSH project to stop. And they've exposed St. Lucia because they pulled DSH's business license. And now a lawsuit is pending on the government of St. Lucia of almost $400 million US. because of their irresponsibility. But if they hadn't continued the program, and let's remember this, I laugh. Because when we came into government, the DSH project, the Pearl of Caribbean, had already been in negotiations with the government. In fact, there's a letter from the now Prime Minister telling Theo King how much they loved his project and how much they were looking forward to working with him, and that the government will do everything, and they were waiting until after the elections to announce it. And then for the same government to be so hypocritical to come out and now and tell us, wasn't a good project? You embraced it. Imagine if those projects had continued, where this country would have been. And that the plan we had to grow tourism, to grow manufacturing, to grow agriculture, where our GDP would be, and where our debt to GDP would be today. You want to boast about unemployment, but it's your revised numbers. You've changed the formula. Once somebody stops looking once a person who is unemployed does not find employment within 12 weeks, they are deemed to be off the workers list. And that is how the unemployment rate has dropped. Not in absolute terms, but you know that. We all know that. A number of people looking for jobs and can't find jobs. But meanwhile, Chinese workers, Indian workers, all being given work permits, and St. Lucians are not being prioritized. I know that there's some questions, Mr. Montoute, that the media have, but I wanted to really deal with this issue, and specifically ask St. Lucians a question. Where would we be in the last 4 years? If the Rodney Bay Road had been finished, if the HI airport had been finished and the jetways were there, St. Jude's Hospital, the International Hospital, and the local hospital, if the Tavern and Shock housing developments were completed, the cruise ship port in Vieux Fort, the difference that would have made. Castries redevelopment, phase 3 of the Castries market, and what we were doing downtown. The border control system in preventing guns from coming into St. Lucia, canine dogs and proper scanners. And the very big one, how much money has been lost by you? How much pain have you gone through in trying to finance health in your families and for yourself? Both in terms of the aftermath of the debt and, very importantly, access to proper health facilities. The lost 4 years is what we call it. Let's not make that same mistake. Let us take the Prime Minister for his word. He's a man of mystery. You cannot read him. We see the level of deceit. We see the level of betrayal that this government has left behind. And the only persons that can now hold this government accountable, because the courts have not been able to hold them accountable. Public servants have not been able to hold them accountable. Anybody who says anything is moved and transferred. People are victimized in this country on a regular basis simply by having a voice. The only persons left that can bring a change to this country and say that this is not how we want this country to be managed are the people. The People's Parliament. December 1st, you have an opportunity to exercise that right. And I'm asking all St. Lucians, especially those who have not voted in the past, those who felt discouraged to vote, were confused by the mystery man. See the truth for yourself. You can now compare our 5 years of administration to theirs. And I'm hoping that you're going to give us a chance to take St. Lucia, build a better St. Lucia for every single St. Lucian. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Political Leader and Prime Minister in waiting. But before we close, we were sent a number of questions that I would like to pose to you, and so that you can address them for the benefit of our viewers and listeners. And so the first question would be, what is the plan for St. Jude by the United Workers' Party?
Thank you. As I made the promise, is that we are going to do everything to open up St. Jude's right away. The fact that we've spent now $400 million on a building, we have to make sure that we're going to get value for that dollar. The question is, can we open it? I don't know the answer to that question. You know, I remember meeting with the staff of St. Jude's, and for the layman, anything's better than the stadium. And I agree with them. But because now we're moving into a proper hospital, it has to be certified. I assure St. Lucians we will be fully transparent about that process. We will do everything that we possibly can to make sure that the old building can be certified and nobody is put at risk. And then the plan for the box, whether it is to make it exclusively an international hospital, with St. Jude's being the local hospital. But we will assess the situation as quickly as we can get in. But I want to assure all St. Lucians, whatever decision is made, it's not going to be based on politics. Whatever is in the best interest of the people of this country, we will do that, regardless of whether people want to give the government credit for what they have done or not. But we're going to make sure that whatever decisions were going to be made, fully transparent, that you will come and open houses, that you will be able to participate in that decision, because this is a very, very, very important decision. But priority number one for my party is to get out of the stadium and to give people a proper health care facility.
The second question is, the X-ray machines at the ports are not the best. The K9 unit is not the same as it used to be. What will the United Workers' Party do about these situations?
Thank you. We have prioritized border control. We've indicated that we're going to strengthen and introduce border control, and again, to expand what border control is. Border control is merging customs, marine police, immigration, and the agricultural quarantine office into a unit, and to improve the facilities they have, the boats, to use technology. People are using more drones to be able to cover the sea, improve the radar systems. We've also spoken about expanding the marine presence. And on land, it is the K9 dogs at all ports of entry, the airports, both of them, and at the cargo ports. But we're also saying that we have to use more technology in fighting our borders, because we can't cover it, we don't have the manpower to cover it entirely. And one of the things for sure is we now know, based on the recent arrests that have taken place, the vast majority of guns and illegal contraband that's coming in is coming in cargo, in the barrels as well as containers. We're going to have to make that investment of getting international standard scanners, and we have to anticipate the attempts to sabotage them. And so who is going to man them and who's going to be responsible for them, and the protection we put to make sure that they're not sabotaged. But we are going to take every life in this country seriously. One life lost by gunfire is too much. We want to be able to eliminate the entry of illegal firearms and guns coming in here and do a much better job. We have to strengthen the laws in St. Lucia for persons who are found in possession with an illegal firearm or bullets. We're going to take this very, very seriously. So K9s are absolutely the first step in this process, but supported by the border control team and supported by proper technology to really fight this scourge, and as well as getting the support of the courts to make sure that we convey to people that there will be no tolerance towards illegal firearms in St. Lucia.
Another question in a totally different sphere. Elisha Norbert, the candidate for the United Workers' Party in Miku South, has made statements that the United Workers' Party will be catering for all St. Lucians. Honorable Chastanet, you too have said that all St. Lucians will benefit from United Workers' Party's government representation. We saw during the course of the last term that the last government set up a ministry called Ministry for Persons with Disabilities, which in effect has been a ministry in name, and the only disabled person who was provided for by that ministry was the minister. The people want to know, what are your government plans for people with disability in terms of going further to ensure that they are represented, not just having a ministry in name?
When one looks at the history of how persons with disabilities have been treated, we can say that an injustice has been done to them and to their families who have had to carry this burden pretty much by themselves. There's been a contribution over the years for persons with disability. I think the amount is $250 a month, up until they're 21. I'm not so sure what happens at 21 that all of a sudden they aren't deserving of this contribution. So one, our government is going to immediately change that will be for their life. And we're also going to increase the amount that we're going to be given on a monthly basis. We are going to do a better job of incentivizing businesses to find ways to hire persons with disabilities. We can have call centers which are dealing with business way overseas. There's no reason why services that can be done from your home can't be provided to people with disability. They have a mind, they're very capable, and they may be dysfunctional based on a physical problem, sometimes autistic, and we see that autistic people have talents, and we need to find out what those talents are. I think that also very importantly is that we want to decentralize government. We want to bring the government to the people. This idea that persons and families with disabilities have to be coming up to cash trees to try to lay claim to their incentives and their benefits. And the benefits are not just the money. To deal with government in general, that we want to create in local government a desk for disabilities. So all persons in each constituency we registered at the council, and they would have the ability to go to that desk to access all of government. If they need a driver's license, if they need passports, whatever documentation they need, that desk will be there specifically to work with them so they don't have to be running around all over the place, and to help them understand and navigate government, because there are probably a lot of services that we have that those persons and their families don't even know about. So it's to continuously train those desk officers specifically to deal with persons with disabilities. And while elderly persons cannot be classified as persons with disabilities, but they have, because of their age, disabilities. And what we've said is that we want to now make sure that each district, to begin with, and eventually each constituency, will have an elderly care center. And that elderly care center would be for persons who are so incapacitated that they can't stay at home. And the care program that we have, which is a phenomenal program, an important program, that what their needs are can't be done from home, so that they can be staying in an elderly home. But it's important to put it so that it's near the community and that their families can provide the love that nobody else can provide. We also wanted to make it that if a man and wife, or a woman and a man who are living together and have a parent living with them, and they're both going to work, that they can drop off their parent for a daycare. And that daycare center, again, would have all of the persons registered. So it's to make the daycare centers working with the care workers, home workers, and that there's a registry of all these persons and what their needs are, and that there's proper oversight to what's happening in the homes, and that there's an immediate access for the elderly. I personally, and I know that my party supports me in this, that you measure the quality of a country by how they treat their elderly. So this is two very important programs for us, and falls specifically on our bringing government to people, and making these facilities not just in name, but providing the deeds with them. That's what real love is. Love is not saying it in words. Love is practicing it in deeds.
And now for the final question, still on the general topic of disability. And before I ask the question, I want to remind you, Mr. Political Leader, that even in this press conference this morning, you made the statement that your government is going to be transparent. Transparency entails providing information and being open to the public. In the course of providing information, we must take into consideration all St. Lucians. And so the question is, will your government consider recruiting people who are trained in sign language to provide sign language broadcasts of government press briefings and other reports?
I don't want people to interpret it as a position of overconfidence, but after winning the election in 2016, and you go from being an ordinary citizen, because I was not a parliamentarian, or from a parliamentarian in opposition, to within hours being the Prime Minister of the country, it would be wrong on my part if we don't anticipate that we're going to form the government at the on December 1st. And in speaking to the person that I've earmarked to be the Minister of Information, I was very happy to hear that that person felt it was very important that we do that. And we're saying not only in terms of sign language, but I think also when we are airing any government programs, we must not only provide the sign language, but we must also do them in Creole. Even in Parliament, it may be difficult enough for persons to follow the language of what's taking place, and made even more difficult because some persons are not as fluent in English. And that we are going to make sure that Parliament is broadcast also in Creole. So it's not just the intercessions where you get an interpretation of what's taking place, but actually while the House is proceeding, that there will be a special channel that you'll be able to go to, whether it's on radio, to coincide with what's taking place in Parliament, and that will be giving you a Creole interpretation of what's taking place. Because communication is critical to good governance, and we have to accept that not everybody speaks English only, and not everybody speaks Creole. And so we have to make sure that everything that we're doing is in those languages, and certainly sign language is very, very important to make sure that everybody is getting access to the information. So we will be very much supporting that. I know the Minister of Information has already indicated that they're ready to get that done very, very quickly, and we share that sentiment.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, I think with those answers that we got to those questions, that can inspire much hope to St. Lucians in terms of the better governance that we have been promised. I want to thank all of you who tuned in this morning into this afternoon for our weekly press briefing. I want to thank the members of the media. I want to thank the two presenters, Mr. Elisha Norbert, our endorsed candidate from Micoud North, and of course, he will be the next parliamentary representative from Micoud North, and of course, our political leader who will be the next parliamentary representative for Micoud South, and in fact, more importantly, at least to the nation, maybe people of Micoud South might have a different opinion, but at least to the nation, more importantly, the Prime Minister of this country. I want to thank all of you, wish all of you a good day, and I would like to ask that you join us on Thursday for Meet the Opposition from 9 o'clock on Rev Up. And ladies and gentlemen, the event to end the week, the event of the weekend, is that massive rally on the William Peter Boulevard on Sunday. But before that, we have a national meeting at Babonneau, and we invite all of you in the north. And for me, the north is from the Badlil to Cap Estate, Ancillary to Grosile. All of you in the north, please find yourselves in Babonneau on Thursday night, and that is tomorrow. But the entire country will be descending on the city of Castries on Sunday for that massive United Workers' Party rally in the Boulevard. Please make that a date, and that is your destination. Come and hear your next government at the William Peter Boulevard on Sunday. Ladies and gentlemen, I thank you, and stay tuned to the United Workers' Party, where you get inspiration, hope, and a brighter future for St. Lucia. Thank you.